think we're going to get started. So thank you everyone for joining this month's 15-minute Feature Friday. Today we will be discussing edge storage, and the agenda for today kind of looks like this. We'll start out with a brief introduction here in a second, define edge storage and give some use case scenarios. Also, we're going to take a look at some architecture and how edge storage can be deployed within the confines of the current technology offerings. We'll look at supported hardware and how to configure edge storage on those devices that support the feature. And then I'm going to pass it over to Stephen, who's going to provide us with a demonstration of how it would looks and feels within the smart client application. So I'm John Welch, Solutions Engineer for Milestone.
And my name's Stephen Moore. I'm also a solution engineer here with Milestone as well.
So edge storage, what is it? So edge storage has been around for a few years now in this market, but I think it's a good idea to give a definition of edge storage in the context of video management. So in video management world, typically we define edge storage as storing video out on the edge on a device like a camera or an encoder. Typically this would be done for redundancy situations where high availability is needed, and in some cases for dedicated storage. Retrieval of stored video at the edge can be accomplished within the XProtect system manually. So the operator can manually retrieve the video, and then also automatically via rule-based logic, so using our rules engine. So let's look at some use case examples. So expanding on the definition, let's look at some examples, like I said. So for high availability in, let's say, poor bandwidth or high latency networks, edge storage can be a benefit as it allows for automatic retrieval, as I said, of stored video at the edge, and then that can be either manually dumped in the media database, the XProtect media database, or automatically when connection is restored to the camera. There's a feature that we released a few years ago. I think it was in our 2016 release, called SVQR, Scalable Video Quality Recording, and that's a nice complement to edge storage. With that feature, basically you can record low quality video essentially in your media database, and that's low frame rate, low quality. And then when you're doing an investigation, you can grab the video that is being stored at the edge, the HD video, and replace it. Replace the low quality video with the HD video directly in the database. So it gives you some really good flexibility there. And then here, I kind of want to go over essential versus edge storage architecture. So there are definitely some advantages and disadvantages to both central and edge storage, but when you utilize both, or you have a combination of central and edge storage, it does allow you to provide a solution to your end users that give you a higher level of availability, and also can reduce the central storage size, basically, especially with SVQR. So it's a way to give your end users more flexibility and provide a better solution, leveraging both technologies. So products that support edge storage within our portfolio: XProtect Professional Plus, and then Expert and Corporate. So if you are thinking about utilizing edge storage, these are the products that you'll want to pick from. Okay. And then supported devices. So if you are thinking about utilizing this technology, on our website, if you go to our supported devices list, supported devices, And then here you can search for just edge storage. So there's a little link there. And then let's say, you pick a manufacturer, you want to make sure that it supports edge storage and also that we support it within our device pack. So you can find that on our website. And a few things on setup. One thing that typically happens when you're setting up edge storage is the data doesn't sync with our media database. So you want to make sure the cameras are synced to an NTB server, and that should be the same one that your recording servers are synced to. So everything is time synced. And then also you need to go into the web interface of the camera. Here we're showing Axis, and set up the SD card. So you typically have to format it and then start the recording process through the web interface. I think we locked up a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to pass it off to Stephen here. So
All right.
click a little button.
All right, guys. So thank you, John, for kind of going through the prerequisites there and what it takes to get edge storage set up. And one of the cool things I think about edge storage, at least inside of the Expect products, is that the setup is pretty much the same for any scenario you want to implement. So basically, you just have to go to the camera, turn it on, and the driver deals with all of that. So I'm going to go through a couple different scenarios here that I think are good to show. I do want to say at the very end of this, we are going to open the floor up for questions. If you do have any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand, and at the end, we'll unmute you so you can talk. So if you do have any questions, just go ahead and raise your hand at any time in the next 5 minutes or so, and we'll unmute you and let you talk. So the first scenario I did want to show you was how to set up the ability to auto-retrieve edge storage when a connection is restored. And we can utilize this feature if we have a network failure or even a server failure, and we want to be able to retrieve the video from the camera directly after a failure of that sort. So basically, this is incredibly easy. Once the settings are already set up on the camera themselves and the camera is in Milestone, all we have to do is go inside the management client and turn on the checkbox there that says automatically retrieve remote recordings when the connection is restored. Basically, the way this is going to look inside of the smart client is if we did have a connection failure, which I had simulated here, it takes a little bit for the video to come back in, so I'm not going to show you this live, but basically the video would not be available, but after the connection is restored, we'll see that the video is going to be requested, which is kind of that lighter checkerboard that we see on the timeline, and then eventually that video is going to be filled in with unmotion analyzed video recording. And we can play this video back just like we can play back any other video stored directly on the system. So very seamless to your customers, very seamless to the end user clients. The next scenario I wanted to talk about was how to manually retrieve video if you want to reduce your bandwidth. So let's say you have a camera that's on an LTE connection or maybe just has a very limited bandwidth throughput. And we want to modify the way the camera records. In other words, we only want the camera to stream video data when somebody is actively looking at it. But we still want to be able to view video from that camera in an investigation if we need to go back and look at video. And the way we can do this is by modifying the default feed request rule. So basically, the first thing we need to do is go into the management client, go into the rules, and modify the default feed request rule, and basically either turn it off or modify it in whatever way we want to modify it. And then we need to create a new rule that basically says whenever a live client is looking to view video, we want to start a feed on that camera. And basically what this is going to do is whenever somebody opens the client, it's going to connect out to the camera, start a live feed, and whenever someone closes the client, it is going to terminate that connection. No recording is actually going to happen unless there is motion during that time, and obviously there's not going to be any recording on the local system when nobody is actively looking at video. So how do we get video? Well, we're going to go to a live demo for that, and I'll show you kind of 3 different scenarios all in one here. So what I have here is my smart client. I'm looking at live video, if you can tell it or not. But what I am looking at is a low resolution video. So if I am actively looking at video, I have a 640 by 480 resolution. We can see that the milestone logo and the Make the World See logo is very pixelated, not very much quality here, but I do have some situational awareness. Now, if I had modified the default feed request rule, I also would only be streaming video when I have an active feed request open. So if I go back to playback, what I'm going to notice is I don't have any video past about 12:03, the last time I had a connection open, so I don't have any video. But if I want to pull some video from, let's say, 12:05, I can just come down here. I can do a little selection, come back down to, let's say, 12:05 and a half to about 12:06. I'm just going to pull a small amount of video, and I can come down here and hit retrieve, and I can do a start retrieval. Top right-hand corner, I'm going to see that this is in progress. This can take a short amount of time or a long amount of time, depending on the connection and depending on the quality of the video. But what you'll see is now I have video during that time I didn't have video. So we've actually pulled that video in from the edge, from the SD card, and brought it in. You may also notice the resolution is much higher than what I had before. So this is an example of SVQR, our scalable video quality recording, where we can actually pull a higher resolution from the camera. So normal live viewing may only be in 640 by 480, but if I did need to go back and retroactively view a higher quality video, I can set up the camera itself to record at a much higher resolution. So in this case, at 1080p and 30 frames a second instead of 8 frames a second. So in this case, I get a wider screen. I also have much better quality into the logos over here. So with this demo, I've kind of showed 3 different scenarios. One, I've showed modifying the default feed request rule. I've also shown the abilities of SVQR and also just manually retrieving edge video. So I think that is all I have here. I wanted to go to this slide here. So if anybody has any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. You can also type them into the chat here. Let me expand my chat. And let me see, let me unmute you, Alex, and I'll let you talk about that. All right, Alex, you are unmuted.
I just had a question if this kind of technology, if this kind of edge technology they have, if that would be available for use with body-worn cameras, or are there kind of remote cameras that may be in the marketplace?
Yeah, so I guess it depends on how the manufacturer of those body-worn cameras actually implement their solution. If they are attached over the network and have the ability through the driver to pull edge recording, then yes. A lot of the manufacturers that we've seen basically have a docking station that basically brings it online, and we retrieve that video through a method that is very similar to edge retrieval. But like I said, it really depends on the actual manufacturer and the way they implement that. So kind of a general answer, but I think it kind of answers it.
So just real quick, we're having 86 and Zepcam release edge storage retrieval in April and May, respectively. So we should be able to pull down edge retrieval from at least those 2 manufacturers in the next few months here.
And those are body cameras, right?
Correct. Yep. 86 and Zepcam.
Great. Thank you, Tim. I don't want to butcher your name here. I think it's Dream. Your question is, I can unmute you if you want me to. Let's see, how do I do this? Oh, you're not called in. I don't think I can unmute you, but your question is SD really used all that often, or would a local NVR instance be more likely to store long-term high-quality video? I think that's a good question. I think it's actually a combination of the two. As John was pointing out earlier, there's a couple different architectures you can take. You can take an edge-only approach. You can take a central-only approach. I think most commonly you're going to see a hybrid of the two for whatever reason you want to implement edge recording. Now, with with our NVRs and with any of our products, really, you can use interconnect and kind of create that scenario as well. So you could have a edge stored NVR that's actually storing the video, but then maybe have a central corporate headquarters that wants to be able to pull that video on demand. And in essence, it's still edge recording. It's just edge recording on a remote NVR. So I think all scenarios are really pretty common and used. Reading one more question here. How does the queue of retrieval video work if it runs at a time in scheduled retrieval mode only for after hours? Okay, Ernest, I think you're talking about making rule-based retrieval. I'm going to unmute you if you want to kind of elaborate on that, or if you don't, it's up to you. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, this is Ernest. Yeah. So this question is for the rule-based retrieval. Sorry for the background noise.
No problem. I think the answer there, and if anybody else, I don't know, John, if you want to add to this, I think this is correct. But I think as long as the the retrieval process has been started, it is going to continue until it finishes. I just don't think we'll start any new jobs. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But John, do you know?
I think you're right there. And just to be sure, we could always follow up with you, Ernest.
Sure. It's just because it was not in the test we had this question on the MCIE, but I was not sure if it stops the queue at the time at the end of the scheduled time and then continues the next day, or it continues during the non-scheduled time.
I think once it's queued, it's going to try to finish that task no matter if the schedule stops, basically. So once it's queued, yeah.
So I was worried about for example, if you have a low bandwidth situation and we are retrieving the live stream is on the low quality, and it's going to continue that queue, that job process during the working hours. It's going to affect on the, the process of the. It's going to affect on the bandwidth for the regular data.
Right.
So that was my question. I couldn't find any information on anywhere about that portion. But it was one of the test questions. I was not sure I was responded correctly or not. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think that's. I think we'll follow up with you on that. I'm pretty sure, but I don't like to be pretty sure, so we'll find out for sure. I'll send you an email.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think there's any other questions. Anybody else have anything they want to ask? Well, if you need to get in contact with us, our pre-sales solution engineers team for here in the US is available at presalesus@milestone.us. So if you need to get in contact with us, please feel free to shoot us a pre-sales engineering question. And we will be back month with another 15-minute Feature Friday.
Thanks for joining, everyone, and we'll see you back next month.